This is a really interesting, I think, really important little book, and it's very suitable for this channel. It's called How to Talk About Books You Haven't Read, and it's written by a French literature academic called Pierre Bayard. I think it's the wrong title for this book. What it's doing is, in a sense, trying to answer the question, the simple seeming question, until you start to think about it, the question, what does it mean to say you've read a book? So if you look at this quotation here from Montaigne, Montaigne says something, it's not a quotation, but he says, if you've read a book and completely forgotten it, and maybe you've even forgotten you've even read it, is it still a book you've read? Okay, so and Bayard encourages you in this book to think of two books. Think of a book that you've read a long time ago, perhaps, and you can't remember anything about it. You don't even remember, like Montaigne here, you don't even remember whether you've read it. And then think of another book that you haven't actually picked up and read in the sense of going through the pages, but you've heard people talk about it, you've read a few reviews about it, you've seen a programme on the television about it. It's often talked about it in the circles that you move in or in the culture that you live in. In what sense have you not read that book? So in the first one, the one you've forgotten, in what sense have you read it? And the one that you've never actually picked up, but you know an awful lot about one way or another, in what sense have you not read that? And once you start to kind of ponder on that question, it begins to raise all sorts of interesting issues about what it means to have read a book, what it means to be well read. Bayard comes down to saying, if you want to kind of know about books and live in the world of books a bit, you don't have to read them all. You have to know where they fit in the kind of massive library of millions and millions of books that have ever been written. I mean, even the most well-read people will have read a tiny, tiny, tiny fragment of what's been written. So the important thing about kind of dealing with books, according to Bayard, is to have an idea of where they fit. You know, what would you put next to what, or what goes in which category with others? And it's not so you can understand the millions and millions of books that have been read. It's to understand those books that you've read, you know, whether that's, a couple of hundred or whether it's 20. How do your books make sense of each other? How do they relate to each other? And therefore, how do you think about and know about these books? How, in a sense, have you read them? It's an awkward little read in places. He's too playful sometimes, and he discusses various books, French books that I've never heard of, let alone read. So it's kind of, it's not a struggle, but it's kind of it's not a zip through read. But I'm aware I've read it because I've dwelled on and thought about those main points that he raises for well over a decade now. And it's really made me think about what I mean when I say I'm a reader or when I say I've read these books. I would recommend it. It does make you think.